Hola, estudiantes. Hello, students. Bienvenidos. Welcome to Capítulo 1, Chapter 1 of Spanish for Children. I know it's a lot, your first Spanish video lesson, but we're just going to take it really slow, have fun, ease into it, no problem. So we're going to start today by talking in English, mostly, about verbs and nouns. Verbs in Spanish are verbos. I think you can handle that, verbos. Nouns are sustantivos, or sometimes people say nombres. What's the difference between a verb and a noun? Do you know? I bet you do. I bet you've learned this in school. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. And we say a noun is a part of speech. A part of speech is just a kind of word. So a noun is a kind of word that tells you the names, a person, place, thing, or idea. Interestingly enough, in English we say noun. In Spanish, if you say nombre, nombre also means names. So name. So a noun names something. So dog is a noun, perro. Or house, casa, is a noun, it's a thing. Or libertad, liberty. It's an idea, a thing, right? Friendship, amistad. It's a thing, kind of, an idea. It's a noun, right? Places, Minneapolis, it's a noun, right? Person, Santa Claus, he's a noun, right? So those are nouns, and every week in this book you're going to be learning some nouns, and you're also going to be learning something with them called an article, which is just a word for the or a. So don't worry about articles now because you're going to learn about them later. So basically, we've just covered half of today's lesson. That was nouns. You're going to like this. It's easy. So let's talk about verbs. I've got some little letters up here, P and T, and they stand for person, number, and tense. Now, if you've studied another language before, you probably are really comfortable with that, and if you haven't, you're probably going, what? So I'll explain. Let's start with tense, because it's the easiest one. Tense is time. So a verb is an action word. The thing that's happening, the action of a sentence. And tense is just the time that the action happened. For example, I just threw my marker at you, right? It happened in the past. Throwing is the action, and it already happened, so it happened in the past. Now, watch. I will throw my marker at you. When's it going to happen? In the past or in the future? In the future, so we call it future tense. I might even be throwing it to you and say, I throw my marker at you, because it's happening right now in the present. So that's tense. Pretty easy. Number and person are a little trickier, but you can get it. You're going to see when we do a verb, this is an example of a verb, hablar. It means to speak or to talk. When you see verbs in the book, a lot of times you're going to see them like this. You're going to see them listed out 6 times. Hablar, 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 hablar. Note that I'm not saying the H. I just say hablar because H's are silent in Spanish. So you're going to see a verb listed 6 times like this, and there's a reason for that. All the times it's listed in this column, only one person is doing the action. And all the times that it's listed in this column, more than one person are doing the action. So, if I talk to myself, by myself, that's called singular, single, by myself, just one. So I would use a form of the verb that's over in this column. But if you and I are talking together and we're both talking, well, that makes more than one, so we're over in this column. So, this is singular, and this is plural, right? I wish I hadn't thrown my marker at you. It'd be nice to have some, anyway, I'll do this without red marker, and I'll know better next time. I learned my lesson. I will not throw my marker at you, future tense. So, but why do I've got it singular and plural columns, but now I have 1, 2, 3 down. So what's that for? It's not number, because this is number, and it's not tense, because we're going to talk about that later. This is person. In grammar, which is like talking about how language works, we have something called person. And person is, it's kind of like who's doing the action of a sentence. And we call it first, second, and third person. We just divide it up. Real easy. And here's kind of how you can think of it. If you were really selfish, which many of us are deep down inside, you would be the first person, the most important person. And here's another way you can think of it. Who's closest to you? You, because you are you, right? So you're the first person, the closest one to you. So when it's first person, it's an I person talking. So hablar in first person would be, the first person form of this verb would be I speak. I speak. I'm the one doing the action. Well, then we've got it going across, so that means we've got a first person, that's first person singular, I do it. First person plural is I and somebody else, because there's more than one. So I and somebody else together. I and you and our friend Jim go down to the store. I and you and Jim eat ice cream. I and you and Jim all order chocolate. I and you and Jim pay in pennies. Eventually, I'm going to stop saying I and you and Jim, and I'm going to say we. Because we is when I am talking, but I'm talking about myself and some other people too. So we've got I and we are both in first person, and I is singular, and we is plural. It's I with some other people along. Second person is you, because you're the next one closest to me. So you go to the store. You eat ice cream, right? I'm not involved. And if I'm not involved, then it becomes second person. Second person plural is interesting because we don't have second person plural in English. We just say you, right? But sometimes we say you guys. What's the difference? Watch this. Teacher comes into the class and says, you are getting a detention. Who? Maybe it's just one person. But maybe it's everybody, and the teacher says you all are getting detentions. In Spanish, there's a different word for you when it's more than one person. So we call it you plural. It's called vosotros, and you'll learn about that later, so don't worry. So you plural. And then third person is, remember how I said that person is how close it is, kind of your perspective, how you see it? Third person is even further away than you. It's him and her way over there, them, right? So him, or he, is third person. It's not you and me, it's him, right? Or not you and me, it's her. She, right? And he and she. He and she, he and she, three people, right? Jim, Steve, and Nick go to the store. They're third person. I say their names. It's not you, it's not me, it's Jim, Steve, and Nick. Jim, Steve, and Nick go to the store. Jim, Steve, and Nick eat ice cream. Jim, Steve, and Nick ride their skateboards. Eventually I'm going to say they, right? That's third person plural. And again, you're going to be doing this so much, you're going to get so sick of it. So, I now have explained what the chart is organized by, but I haven't explained why we do it. And now I'm going to tell you. There's not a whole lot of difference between I sing, you sing, he sings, that gets an S. But there's not a lot of difference, right? You know who's doing the action in English because you have a word in front of the verb that tells you. But in Spanish, it's different. You know who's doing the action of a sentence in Spanish because you put an ending on the verb that tells you who's doing the action. And what you do is you chop off the last two letters of your verb, the AR, it's called the AR ending. You get rid of them. And you add a new ending on. And that new ending is going to tell you who's doing the action, if it's a first person, a second person, or third person, and how many people are doing the action. If it's just me by myself, or if it's me and you, we. If it's just you, or if it's you and your sister, you guys, right? If it's just Steve, or if it's Steve and Bob. If it's just him, or if it's them, right? So you're going to be doing this a lot in this book. This is when you learn a Romance language, Spanish, Italian, French, Latin, you're going to do this all the time. Make this chart, do these endings. So if it seems a little new and funky, don't worry about it. You're going to be an old pro in a couple of weeks. So go ahead and look through this chapter. It's mostly a getting used to everything kind of chapter, but you also need to memorize your canto because that was all the different forms of the verb avoir, all the different endings. And we will talk more about that later. So in the meantime, adios.